There is a Trojan horse in Britain, hardline Muslims who will be content to send us back to the dark ages with Sharia law. It's emerged that several prominent figures in the British Muslim community praised the Taliban. Between them, they said the Taliban were beautiful, they felt free in Afghanistan and defended their treatment of women. Can I just make the point that the Taliban stones women to death, flogs them, people come from miles around to view the stonings and the floggings. Girls over the age of 12 have been mostly excluded from school, and the government has also stopped most Afghan female staff from working at aid agencies. They've closed beauty salons, barred women from public spaces like parks and gyms, and curtailed travel for women in the absence of a male guardian. Despite this, Hamid Mahmood, the founder of an Islamic girls' school in East London, told an audience of the freedom he felt in Afghanistan. It was somewhat quite sad and painful as an experience, leaving that land, because I will be very honest, and I've said this very clearly, that there was something there, a feeling of outright freedom. He can go and live there if he wants, can't he? Here are some of the things being said about the Taliban.
The Afghan government, they have a focus because, and after speaking to many ministers, we realized what freedom meant.
Don't think that we are not, it's not education, but there are priorities.
One of them is reportedly Haitham al-Haddad, who said Western secular influences were being driven into the minds of the students who were speaking against the Sharia, and many vices were creeping in. When it is time to rebuild the country, we cannot tolerate division, and therefore temporary suspension of liberal secular education took place. Right, okay, we have that over here though, don't we? The old Western set. Anyway, according to newspaper reports, Haddad was previously described as one of the most dangerous men in Britain, said that being gay was a scourge and a criminal act. He reportedly said the Japanese tsunami in 2011, which killed more than 15,000 people, was a just punishment for the country not being Muslim. On child marriage, he reportedly said, the earlier the better, especially for girls, but you have to be careful of the legal issues. These people walk amongst us. Mufti Ismail Satir told the 250-person strong crowd at Queen Mary's University in London, "We went to Afghanistan with a very open mind. It brought back to me the stories of the Sahaba, companions of Prophet Muhammad, that we read. They reminded me of those who sacrificed for Islam and those who were willing to do anything for Islam." People might say this is just a few fringe people who don't really mean any harm. Okay, fair enough. So why was it that an extremist hate cleric called Inayat Ullah Abbasi, who said, if anybody dares to criticise our Prophet Muhammad, that person should be declared as a disbeliever and hence his/her head should be chopped off, why was it that he was able to come from Bangladesh and draw big crowds in Nottingham? He was set to draw a big crowd in London until GB News stepped in, alerted the Home Office, and he was sent on his way. They can draw crowds because there is a market for them against some elements of the Muslim community in Britain. The taxpayer has been funding the Counter-Terror Prevent programme. A report found that key figures in organisations funded by Prevent are alleged to have supported the Taliban, defended militant Islamist groups banned in the UK, and hosted hate preachers themselves. The latest polling shows that around only 1 in 4 British Muslims say it will be undesirable to have Sharia law. 52% want to make it illegal to show a picture of the Prophet Muhammad. Only around 28% are opposed to making homosexuality illegal. There's widespread sympathy with Hamas, and the younger Muslims are apparently the most extreme. There is a bloke at the moment trying to sue the government because their failure to combat climate change is impacting his health. Does that mean we can all sue the government for letting a Trojan horse into Britain? Let's get the thoughts of my panel. This evening I am joined by Conservative candidate Alex Dean, entrepreneur and social commentator Joanna Jarju, and political commentator Alex Armstrong. Thank you very, very much for joining me. Alex Dean, I will start with you. Have we allowed a Trojan horse into Britain, do you think?
We have known for some time that people expressing views like this are in our country. I hadn't known. What's news to me is that Queen Mary University hosts events where they get an uncontested platform to voice them. And I'm sure they'll be being asked some questions, and they'll be asking themselves some questions about whether that was right. The main thing for me is that when you voice support for a regime like that internationally, there is something we can do about it. We have prescribed Hamas as a terrorist organisation. when you talk about the Taliban, you'll talk about an organisation that's carried out scorched earth policies on its own population, sold women into sexual slavery, banned education for women after a very basic level, conducts corporal and capital punishment in ways that we would think utterly barbaric, and has starved and massacred people in their own country. Surely that's an organisation that should be prescribed as well.
And it's a really good point, because earlier on, I was looking at whether or not the Taliban are a prescribed terror organisation. They are not a prescribed terror organisation in Britain, which is absolutely bonkers. So people can go and voice support for them, and that's absolutely fine. Joanna, some of the things said, I mean, look, as a woman, you must surely be absolutely sickened to see that people are supporting a regime that would, stone women to death, ban the education of women, ban any free rights, surely.
Yeah, no, I am completely, and I agree with you that, the Taliban should probably be categorised as terrorists. I think that it's almost as if when things like this happen, we talk about, what these bad people are doing, and they're always going to exist, in my opinion. But I almost feel as if the energy should be about the processes and how we actually identify these people. So, for example, for Queen Mary University, they're basically saying that this was a commercial booking. But for a university where that people will be attending, listening to these type of things, they'll deplatform other people, but it seems as if... Left, right and centre, yeah, but it seems as if they don't really go through the rigorous processes. And I think that's what we should be thinking about, and it overspills even when it comes to things like the Home Office and like you were saying, why is it that GB News had to flag about somebody? Why isn't there a process? So it just seems as if we spend so much time talking about it. They're always going to exist, but how do we actually weed the bad people out?
Look, no doubt, Alex, those people will say, look, it's just our view. We went to Afghanistan. You've not been to Afghanistan, as far as I'm aware. You've not been to Afghanistan. What do you really know about it? It's well within their rights to sit on a platform and say whatever they like.
Look, I mean, there's an element of freedom of speech, and quite frankly, I would rather the views were out in public so we can challenge them than they were pushed underground and, radicalising young people, because it is young Muslim boys that are being radicalised in the majority. I would say to those people, many of those men who are British-born, their parents came to this country to escape those extremist policies that were implemented in their own countries that drove those countries into the ground. And quite frankly, Sharia law has no compatibility with British values and British rights. So don't come and bring those things here that nobody, I guarantee you, polled the majority of British people, 98% of people would say absolutely not.
Just other Alex, these views, I'm not sure how uncommon they actually are. In fact, I think they are worryingly common. Those people are big players. A lot of them have big social media followings. A lot of them have big influence in communities. There's a lot of that going on, right? And I am really, really concerned that actually the things that we heard there are quite mainstream.
So, Alex has a point that the Taliban drove out a number of more moderate people who are now finding their own children being radicalised away from them in their community. Because the Taliban had two goes, right? They were 96 to early 2000s, they were in control of Afghanistan, and now they're back. In that first time, they destroyed almost all art. They banned almost all music except for very basic drumming. So if you were a musician in Afghanistan, that was it for you. Of course, they persecuted homosexuals appallingly. And if you were an artist, you were a musician, you happened to be gay, you were someone who believed in liberal rights for women, you left Afghanistan.
What about the comments there when it comes to girls getting married? The younger, the better, but you've got to watch out for the law. I mean, I had a guy on my show, I think it was maybe on Monday night, it might have been, who was saying very, very similar views. I mean, I'm deeply concerned about how widespread those views are.
I don't think that it's necessarily mainstream, though. I'm not saying that, there isn't a significant number, but, these polls come out and it says 52%, and then you actually find out that they actually polled 1,000 people, so I don't always take things like that as gospel, but I do think that it's a problem that we pay attention to.
That's fair, right? So let's not make general points, talk about the specific. There was a guy on that platform who runs a school for girls saying that he idolised an environment in which secondary education for women is banned.
But then the main question is then, where is that guy now? So we see it there in black and white. No, exactly. So how come nothing's happened to it?
But this is part of the problem, right? Because, they've not broken any laws, as far as I can tell. They've not broken any laws. They've not done anything, illegal or anything like that. They're not praising a banned terror group. I don't think it's right to say, well, we can just deport those people. I don't know whether or not a guy was born in Britain or not, but, he's on a platform. There's not a quick fixed?
There is. We should prescribe the Taliban, and they can be therefore be prosecuted.
But it doesn't change the fact that they are allowed to say these things. They're allowed to say, I agree with these laws.
Yes.
What we actually do need is strong British figures, like a strong British Prime Minister, for example, to come out and say, we as a country do not tolerate these values here,
Alex,
and if you continue to propagate them, then we will shut you
But
down.
then that's hot air without the law to back it up.
People
Well,
if people on the marches can express that, which I don't think should be happening anymore, by the way, but people on the marches can express their views to a degree. But if they hold up signs saying I'm in favour of Hamas, they're breaking the law. It's a prescribed terrorist organisation. They can prosecute it.
So are people like that, like the people that we saw in some of those videos, like the people that I quoted there, are they here to assimilate, or are they here to take over?
There are always going to, within any community, be extremes, and you've got to ask the community to help you to deal with that extreme. So the fact that somebody holds these ultra-extreme views whilst being in Britain doesn't actually surprise me, because they're so prevalent in parts of Islam around the world. I mean, for heaven's sake, this abominable organisation is running Afghanistan effectively now, and indeed entering into huge drug trade and human slavery whilst they're about it. But I don't think that means that Muslims in Britain are here to take over, actually, at all. I think that the most worrying thing is the radicalisation of their children. I think a lot of them are here because they want to be in a more liberal country. And the hidden truth in this debate is I think many moderate Muslims would be appalled by what their own children are being taught.
Yes, but what's exceptionally worrying is how men like these guys get to the top of these organisations without the parents and other people inside those institutions going, actually, you're far too radical to be running the school.
There's just clearly not enough pushback. And maybe that's fear, because if these people wrap themselves in the cloak of being the voice on earth of Allah, right, and then they're asking people in the community to go and follow them, it's a very big ask for people in that community to then say, well, oh gosh, I'm sorry, I don't like you, because it is like offending, the kind of, like I said, the representative of your leader on earth, really, which I think is a bad thing. Joanna, I mean, for me, I think we need to be going into mosques and having a look at what's being said. But again, you probably get called Islamophobic for doing that.
Well, yeah, probably, to be honest. I think that might be a step too far to say that we should just be going into all mosques, because like we were saying before, you can't just kind of pinpoint. It's a bit like stop and search, isn't it? It's kind of racial profiling. So I think that one would be difficult. But I think that once somebody opens that door slightly, there should be something. And there's obviously organisations like Prevent, but it's because the law doesn't back it up. And actually, and it's hard to say, to be fair to them, but when it comes to the things that they do support and the support that they have given to the Taliban, they haven't said we support terrorist activities. They're talking about being more liberal. So obviously it's going to be very difficult. It's scary to hear because it's the Taliban.
You don't have to intrude into a mosque and find out some secret meeting. You can start with the material that's been recorded and broadcast by people because they're proud of what they're saying. The campaign against anti-Semitism is trying to get the Metropolitan Police and the Crown Prosecution Service to prosecute people for things they've said on video and had broadcast. And so far our authorities show real reluctance to do that.
We are going to have to draw a line under it here and move on. But a Queen Mary University spokesperson said this: the event in September was not sponsored by the university, adding that it was jointly organised by Prosper Afghanistan and Human Aid and Advocacy. All right, well, it's quite a short statement there, considering what we heard, but there we are.